The NBA All-Star Game was once the ultimate showdown of basketball's best. A stage where legends were made, rivalries burned hotter, and fans got the game they deserved. But today, it's a highlight reel with no defense and little effort. What happened to the All-Star Game we all loved? Let's break it down. The NBA All-Star Game has been around since 1951.
In the Boston Garden, the first NBA East-West All-Star Game, the dream game for the pros. First, let's look at some of the personalities.
And for decades, it was the league's crown jewel. Fans looked forward to the East versus West matchup all season long. It wasn't just about fun, it was about pride, bragging rights, and showcasing the league's elite talent. But over the last few years, the magic seems to have faded. Defense is non-existent, players are holding back, and even die-hard fans are questioning if it's worth watching anymore. Today, we'll dive into what made the All-Star Game great, why it's declined, and whether it can ever return to its former glory. In the 90s and early 2000s, the All-Star Game was competitive. Players didn't just want to win, they needed to win. East versus West meant everything. You had MJ facing off against Magic, Shaq dominating the paint, and Allen Iverson proving he could hang with the big guys. These games had heart. They weren't just about entertainment. They were about legacy. In 1992, Magic Johnson came out of retirement to win MVP. In 2001, Allen Iverson led a legendary comeback. These moments defined the All-Star Game as more than just a mid-season event. It was a celebration of basketball at its peak. So, what went wrong? Many point to the lack of defense. Today's players barely break a sweat. Instead of grinding out tough possessions, we get wide-open dunks, half-court shots, and a combined 300 points on the scoreboard. The All-Star Game feels less like a battle and more like a casual scrimmage. Some blame the rise of load management. Players are more concerned about staying healthy for the playoffs than risking injury in a meaningless game. Others argue that the league shifted its focus to entertainment rather than competition. And let's not forget social media. Players are more cautious about how they're perceived. Nobody wants to be the guy who plays too hard in what's supposed to be a fun game. The NBA has tried to fix it. In 2018, they scrapped the traditional East versus West format for a captain-led draft. Stars like LeBron James and Kevin Durant picked their teams, creating fun and sometimes unexpected matchups. Then came the Elam ending, a rule designed to make the final moments more intense. And to be fair, there have been some exciting moments, like Damian Lillard's game winner in 2021. But even with these changes, the competitive fire of the past just isn't there. Fans might enjoy the spectacle, but where's the grit? Where's the hunger to win? Fans are divided. Some say the All-Star Game has evolved. It's more about fun, flashy plays, and social media moments. But others argue that it's lost its soul. They miss the intensity, the pride, the feeling that this game mattered. Look at Twitter, Reddit, or any sports forum, and you'll see the same complaints. No defense, no effort, just a dunk contest on repeat. Back in the day, the All-Star Game wasn't just about fun, it was about proving yourself. Players didn't just show up, they competed. Every bucket mattered, and rivalries were real. So, when exactly did things start going downhill? Many fans point to 2017 as the year the All-Star Game truly lost its edge. That year, the final score was 192 to 182, nearly 400 combined points with almost zero defense. Players weren't just avoiding contact, they were barely even trying. And here's another issue. The All-Star Game has turned into a glorified three-point contest. Players are launching deep threes from half-court with zero resistance. We get it. Steph Curry can hit shots from anywhere. But when every player is just chucking up logo threes with no defense, it takes away from what made these games special. Remember when the NBA teased the idea of a 1-versus-1 tournament replacing the skills challenge? Fans were excited about seeing position-based matchups, guards versus guards, bigs versus bigs, but what happened to it? The concept was simple. Players of similar size and position would face off in a king-of-the-court-style game, finally giving us the matchups fans have debated for years. Imagine Kyrie versus Steph, KD versus Tatum, or Embiid versus Jokic in a pure one-on-one battle. It was meant to replace the skills challenge, which, let's be honest, has lost its appeal over the years. But for some reason, the NBA backed off, and we got more of the same instead. Was it fear of players getting exposed? A lack of star participation? Or did the league just decide to play it safe? Three reasons this could be huge. Fans love 1v1 debates. We've all argued who would win in a one-on-one matchup. Would bring back intensity. No hiding behind teammates, just raw skill. Would give a fresh, competitive edge, unlike the skills challenge, which has lost excitement. One idea gaining traction is moving the All-Star Game later in the season, instead of the traditional mid-season break. Right now, players are focused on staying healthy for the playoffs, and that leads to half-speed effort. But if the game happened after the regular season, but before the playoffs, more players might actually compete, because they wouldn't have to worry as much about injuries derailing a title run. Right now, mid-season fatigue is real. Players are dealing with injuries, and for teams in playoff contention, the last thing they want is to risk a setback. If the NBA scheduled the game between the end of the regular season and the start of the playoffs, kind of like how the NFL spreads out its play-in games, it could allow for more intensity while still keeping the biggest stars involved. A later All-Star Game also lets players from teams that missed the playoffs put on a show, while playoff-bound stars could opt in or out without backlash. At the end of the day, if the NBA wants the All-Star Game to mean something again, they need to bring back incentives. But then, there are fans who love the change. For them, the All-Star Game is a chance to see the league's best players having fun and putting on a show. So, who's right? Can the All-Star Game be saved? Some fans say it's time to go back to East versus West to reignite rivalries. Others suggest bigger incentives, money, charities, or even playoff advantages to motivate players to compete. But maybe the real issue isn't the format. Maybe it's about the mindset. Players today are focused on their careers, their health, and their brand. And while that's understandable, it's worth asking, what's the point of the All-Star Game if the players don't care about it as much as the fans do? The All-Star Game has come a long way, but it feels like it's lost its way. Maybe it's time to bring back the pride, the intensity, and the competitive spirit that made it special. What do you guys think? Leave a comment to start conversation on what went wrong and how it can be fixed.